What is up, course heroes? Welcome to yet another video. This is your boy Amit, and today we are going to look at how to create a podcast using Google Notebook LM without ever speaking a single word using the power of AI. So let's get started. So I am inside my Notebook LM account, and this is tied directly to your Google account. So if you run out of generations for the day, you could use a second or a third or a fourth Google account. With that, let's get started. So how this works is I'm going to go take a random article and show you how that gets put into Notebook and how that then generates a conversation between the two hosts. Now, as a reminder, this is the first iteration of Google Notebook, so you will only get a male and a female voice, and they're both American voices, and this cannot be customized, but there are some things that can be customized. So I'm going to show you what those things are that you can customize your AI bots with. So I'm on this website by SF Ben. It's called salesforceben.com, and I'm going to take this article. What I'm going to do is copy the URL. Now this will only work on websites that allow their sites to be crawled. If you use a website like The Verge or Axios, or some of these websites have blocked crawling, in that case you will have to copy and paste the entire article for this to generate the summaries and the conversation for you. Once you have copied that, let's go back to your Notebook LM account and create new. If you don't see this similar view here, you're probably on the thumbnail view, which looks something like this. You can toggle between that and your list view right here. I'm going to click on create new. When you click on create new, there are a few ways you can upload a source into Google Notebook LM, which allows these conversations to happen. So this is the data that you're providing AI so that they can talk about that specific data. You can use Google Docs, Google Slides, a website link, which is what I'm doing, a YouTube link, or you can simply paste the text here if it's a website that has blocked crawling. And you can also have up to 50 sources uploaded into your notebook for a single conversation. From my last 3 weeks of usage, what I have noticed is the more sources you have, the longer that audio will be generated. And if it's a shorter article with maybe a single source, you'll get maybe 5 to 7 minutes of audio generation. I typically use only a single source and keep the generation to around 10 to 12 minutes, but there is no control over that. So it's up to the AI to generate as short or as long an conversation as it deems fit to talk about this topic. With that, I'm going to click on the website option here, paste our URL and just hit insert. Now this URL will get crawled. Google is going to give you a gist of that data, and then on the left side you can see the source that used to got that data. So this URL just got crawled. Google provides you with a summary of the data that it crawled, and on the left side you can see the sources that were used to generate that summary. Now your audio has not been generated yet. This is just a text summarization from that link that we pasted. In order to generate the audio, you're going to have to click the generate button. In the latest iteration of Google, this happened maybe around October 20th, I want to say. We have the customize option, and when you click this, you'll be able to see what other things you can ask the AI to do in order to customize. So things you can tell this AI conversation is focus on a specific source, a specific topic, specific audience. Here's what I like to do. So I'm using this as a proof of concept to see if I create a podcast in this niche, would it work? So what I wanted to do is give out the name of the podcast first, then introduce themselves as the two hosts, and then dive deep into the conversation. So here's my command that I'm going to paste in here. So my command is begin the conversation by introducing yourself. Your names are Ethan Parker, the male voice, and Sophia Bennett, the female voice. Welcome your listeners to the podcast by saying, welcome to Trailblazer Talk, and that's the part for the male voice where Salesforce expertise ignites your success. And that's the female voice, so I have broken that out with their names in front of it. And I have noticed that 99% of the time this works. So I'm going to put that command in here and hit generate. So while this is generating, what I like to do is I also like to put the source URL as a new note. So I'm going to put that source URL in here. And why I like to do this is my next step is going to be that I'm going to take this to ChatGPT, copy and paste that entire article in there, and ask ChatGPT to generate a podcast title and description for me. And for that, I want to save that URL. So that's really my only reason to add a note there. And then similarly, I add that here as well as a URL. What I do like to do is add an icon. So since my podcast is around Salesforce is a cloud SaaS tool, I like to use that icon and then an X. That way I know that I have not published this, I've only generated the audio. And since the audio generation takes about 2 to 5 minutes, I typically just leave it, move on to the next one, and then come back and go through all of those that are marked X to work on them. So once this is done, you will see the audio file here. For now, let me go to one that already has an audio file in there, which would be this one right here. Now, if you're not seeing the audio file, essentially because you have to press this notebook guide button. So once you press this notebook guide button, you will see that the audio loads, and in this case, it loaded about 15, almost 16 minutes worth of conversation. I am going to drop that conversation link down in the description so you can listen this for yourself. This is literally mind-blowing stuff. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they've pulled it off. One thing I mentioned in the beginning of this video is because of the popularity of this product and probably the amount of money that it's costing Google to generate these audio files, they have capped it to a daily limit. I don't know what that daily limit is. I want to say it's about 15 to 20 audio generations per day. But again, that's limited to a single Google account. So if you have multiple Google accounts, feel free to keep using those till you hit your daily limit. So from here, what we're going to do is download this, but Notebook LM is going to give you a WAV file. What I want to do is convert that to an MP3 file because my podcasting host, which is podcast.co, does not accept WAV files. So I'm going to download it first, and then after I have downloaded it, I'm going to convert it to an MP3 file. I'll show you how that conversion works in a moment. So my WAV file has downloaded, and on Windows, I have this software called Switch by NCH Software. It's completely free to use. And what I'm going to do here is simply add my WAV file. And now that my WAV file is added, I'm going to hit the convert button. That's going to convert it to an MP3 because that's what my convert to option is here, is MP3. You can choose any of these other options. I'm simply going to choose MP3. And then I have my output folder selected. And with that, we are going to hit convert. So while this file converts, I'm going to show you how I'm going to now leverage ChatGPT to take that article, get a podcast title, get a podcast description, and then publish it to my podcast host. So first thing we're going to do is get to this article that I am going to be using for my ChatGPT title and description. I'm simply going to copy the entire article, and I do give credit to this article in the podcast description. So I mentioned, hey, the source of this article or the source of this podcast was this specific article, and I'll link back to it. So I've copied the article. Now what I'm going to do is head on over to ChatGPT and show you how that piece works. So I'm inside of ChatGPT. This is my custom bot that I've created. And if you haven't played with custom GPTs, I highly recommend you do that so you can create a bot that has one single specific purpose. And all I'm going to do here is paste that article that I copied from Salesforce Ben. Now this bot has been trained to do a single task, which is anytime I paste an article, it's going to generate a podcast title and a podcast description. So here are my 10 possible titles. And then also here's the podcast description. I don't like that it's super long, so I do have to edit this bot a bit and train it to not give me such long descriptions. So first, let's go and find a title that we like. I actually like the first one, Harnessing AI. So let's copy that title here. Now I'm going to head on over to podcast.co and show you how to create a new episode inside your podcast account. So here's my podcast called Trailblazer Talk inside of podcast.co. I'm going to go to episodes, and I'm just going to hit upload episode. Now I'm going to select the episode that I just converted to MP3. That file is going to upload, and then from here we're going to give it the episode name. For the description, I'm going to head back over to ChatGPT. Just grab this first paragraph, and then I'll come back and grab the last paragraph. Here are my podcast host names, so I'm going to put that in there. Last episode published was number 47, so this one will be 48 in season 1. Now, I had mentioned that I also like to give credit to the source. So I have the source as Salesforce Ben, and I'm going to link that specific article by just entering the URL of the article here. From here, I'm going to hit next and publish. And just like that, your podcast was published. Now, a couple of things that I want to touch on here is how do you distribute this to other directories? So you can go to Spotify and also Apple and create a new show there. When you do create a new show, it's going to ask you for a RSS feed. To grab that RSS feed, what you want to do is go to share and publish and grab this podcast RSS feed, add it to those directories, and now your podcast will also be available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google, wherever you want to distribute your podcast. This is a manual step. However, podcast.co, for $19 a month, you get unlimited podcasts, so you can literally have a podcast in any and every niche. I think you're limited to the number of downloads per month, and of course you're also limited to how much content you can generate out of Google Notebook LM and publish it to the podcast. So that was a gist of how you can get your podcast published without saying a single word. And there you have it, course heroes. That is how easy it is to create your podcast using Notebook LM. This is just the first iteration. I'm sure the market is soon going to be flooded with tools. I'm curious to know what podcast are you going to create. So drop your pod link in the description below. And until next time, keep creating.